In 1789, the world watched as France tore down the pillars of its monarchy. The French Revolution was more than a political shift. It was a direct challenge to the old order of Europe. But revolutions don't stay contained. Within just 3 years, France's fight for liberty would ignite a continent-wide war. This is the story of the French Revolutionary Wars, a decade of conflict from 1792 to 1802 that transformed Europe forever. Chapter 1. Seeds of War. By the earliest 1790s, France was a nation in upheaval. King Louis XVI had been stripped of most of his power. Nobles fled across the border, pleading for foreign monarchs to intervene. Austria's Emperor Leopold II, who happened to be Marie Antoinette's brother, and King Frederick William II of Prussia issued the Declaration of Pillnitz in 1791, threatening military action if the king was harmed. Inside France, revolutionary leaders saw this as proof of a conspiracy to crush their new republic before it could even take root. In April 1792, France declared war on Austria. Few realized this single decision would trigger 10 years of near-constant fighting. Chapter 2. War of the First Coalition, 1792. A rough start. The war began badly for France. Many officers had fled the country, leaving inexperienced commanders in charge. In August 1792, Prussian forces under the Duke of Brunswick advanced deep into French territory, threatening Paris. But at the Battle of Valmy on September 20th, French troops, inspired by revolutionary zeal, held their ground. Cannon fire roared across the misty fields, and the Prussians withdrew. It wasn't a massive victory, but it was a turning point. The very next day, the monarchy was abolished and France became a republic. 1793. Escalation and internal rebellion. January 1793, King Louis XVI is executed. The guillotine blade falls and shockwaves ripple across Europe. Britain, Spain, and the Dutch Republic join Austria and Prussia, forming the First Coalition. Inside France, chaos erupts. In the Vendée region, royalist peasants rise up against the Republic, outraged by religious persecution and conscription. Meanwhile, on the northern front, French armies face defeat after defeat. By mid-1793, France is under siege from nearly every direction. The solution was radical. Levée en masse. Mass conscription of every able-bodied man. This wasn't just an army, it was a people's war. Officers were promoted for talent, not noble birth. This meritocracy brought ambitious young men, like a 24-year-old artillery officer named Napoleon Bonaparte, into the spotlight. 1794 to 1797, France on the offensive. By 1794, the reorganized armies began winning. At the Battle of Fleurus, French forces pushed Austria out of Belgium. In Italy, Napoleon's 1796 campaign was a masterclass in speed and strategy, defeating larger Austrian armies by striking where they were weakest. The Treaty of Campo Formio in 1797 ended the First Coalition. France now controlled Belgium, parts of Italy, and territories along the Rhine. Chapter 3. War of the Second Coalition. Napoleon's Egyptian Gamble, 1798 to 1799. Napoleon turned his attention to Britain. Unable to invade directly, he targeted its trade routes to India by seizing Egypt. In July 1798, he won the Battle of the Pyramids, defeating the Mamluk cavalry. But days later, Admiral Nelson destroyed the French fleet at the Battle of the Nile, trapping Napoleon's army. While Napoleon explored ancient ruins and commissioned the famous Rosetta Stone, Europe was preparing for war again. Europe strikes back. Britain, Austria, Russia, and the Ottoman Empire formed the Second Coalition. Their forces attacked French positions in Italy, Switzerland, and the Low Countries. In Italy, the French suffered devastating defeats, losing most of their earlier gains. The coup of 18 Brumaire, 1799, Napoleon slipped back to France, leaving his army behind in Egypt. On November 9, 1799, known in the revolutionary calendar as 18 Brumaire, he overthrew the weak Directory government in a bloodless coup. France now had a new leader, First Consul Napoleon Bonaparte. Final battles in the Peace of Amiens. Under Napoleon's leadership, French forces scored a decisive victory at Marengo in 1800, driving Austria out of Italy once again. Britain, exhausted and isolated, signed the Treaty of Amiens in 1802. For the first time in 10 years, Europe was at peace, but everyone knew it wouldn't last. Chapter 4. Legacy. The French Revolutionary Wars changed Europe forever. Monarchies had survived, but the old diplomatic order was shattered. Mass conscription and merit-based promotion became permanent features of modern warfare. Napoleon emerged as the most famous general of his age, and soon emperor. The revolutionary ideals that began in Paris would echo across the world. The French Revolutionary Wars began as a desperate defense of a young republic. They ended with France as the dominant power on the continent, and Napoleon poised to reshape Europe.